I asked for questions, you gave me questions, and now I'm here to give you the answers. Yes, it's Q&A number 2 for Pug Hoof Gaming. Hello and welcome to the second of a hopefully regular series of Q&A sessions I'll be doing with you guys. I asked on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube for some questions for you to give to me, and I'm just here to answer them really. I've got a load of great questions from a lot of you, so thank you very much if you replied to my request for questions. So I guess let's get on with it, 'cause there's quite a few to get on with. First up comes from a YouTube comment by Retro Heaven, and he asks me, what is your favourite character from Street Fighter, Killer Instinct or Mortal Kombat? Well, that's a pretty good question actually. I do like all three games. I don't probably play them as much as I used to, but back in the day on the SNES and the Mega Drive, I loved those games. So I guess I'll start with Street Fighter, 'cause that's pretty easy. When I was younger, I used to play Street Fighter Championship Edition on the Mega Drive. I probably gravitated towards some of the charged kind of characters like Blanca, M. Bison and Vega. These days I've sort of settled on Ken, just because I know I quite like the motions for Dragon Punches and Fireballs and Hurricane Kicks and the like. Killer Instinct, I don't really play the new one much. I've got it, but I just haven't really got a chance to play it, and I'm not really into sort of fighting games so much anymore. But the original SNES version, the arcade version, I used to use Orchid just because she had that 45 hit ultra combo, which was just absolutely ridiculous and a hell of a lot of fun to pull off, so that's why I sort of stuck with her. Mortal Kombat was probably my favourite three games back then, and I used to sort of settle on Scorpion or Sub-Zero or sometimes Kano, depending on what game it was. I used to like playing Kano in the original Mortal Kombat just because he had that awesome heart rip fatality, but most of the time I tend to stick between Sub-Zero, sometimes Cyrax as well, if he's in the game, just because he's got that sort of net move. So yeah, thank you very much for your question. Next up is from a good friend Andrew at The Back Office, which is at The Back Office Show on Twitter, and also he is on YouTube, youtube.com/TheBackOffice. Check him out, awesome YouTube channel, lots of sort of gaming stuff, lots of techie stuff, electrical stuff, lots of messing around with things and tinkering with equipment, great stuff. You should really check it out if you have the opportunity. And he asks me, can you list the top 5 end-of-life games that no one really got to play on the SNES? That's an interesting one, because there were a lot of games that, especially in Europe, that we didn't get, that were really good, that came out very near the end of the system. Some of its best games were sort of like that mid to late period. So let me just have a think. I actually wrote this list down, so I actually did a bit of research just to remind myself as well. So the first game I'm going to mention is Harvest Moon, which I can't remember if it came out over here or not, but it's a game I got into in my teens thanks to emulation, and I got hopelessly addicted to. Harvest Moon is basically a farming sim / RPG. You are a farmer, you inherit this farm, and you've basically got to turn it from nothing into something amazing. You can start a family, get married, have kids, you improve your farm, make lots of money. It's strangely addictive, very simple for the time. It's a series that's gone on as time's progressed, but I think it's the first one on the SNES that's the only one that's really kind of stayed with me in terms of quality. Next up, I'll probably say Super Mario RPG. Yes, I know it came out in Japan and America, but it didn't come out over here, so not very many people in the UK actually got to play it until it came out on the Wii Virtual Console and the Wii U Virtual Console as well. Very good Square developed JRPG with Mario in a very sort of weird pre-rendered isometric style graphics, but it's very good. I wouldn't say it's my favourite of the Mario RPGs, but it's the first one, and it did sort of start something that was a nice little departure from what we usually expect from a Mario game. So again, lots of fun, really good combat system as well, and it's turn-based, but there's a bit of action involved where you sort of got to time your button presses to jump on enemies like a certain rhythm to get more hits, so lots of fun. Next up is Seiken Densetsu 3, otherwise known as the sequel to Secret of Mana. Never came to Western shores, it kind of stuck in Japan. It was so late. Square had sort of almost abandoned the SNES by that point, save for Super Mario RPG, but they didn't actually translate it. Someone very kindly translated the whole game, probably late 90s, early 2000s, and that's when I sort of had my opportunity to play it. Excellent game, probably not quite as good as Secret of Mana, but really awesome JRPG, beautiful graphics, amazing sounds, well worth checking out if you love your JRPGs. Next one, Street Fighter Alpha 2. Yeah, Street Fighter Alpha 2 came out on the SNES really late on, like 95, 96, and it used a special enhancement chip. It basically compressed graphics So you actually had loading screens while it kind of decompressed all those visuals and sprites. And as a result, like, it looks amazing. It shouldn't be on a Super Nintendo. It doesn't look like it should work, but it does. Like, the graphics look really good. It's got the intro scene, which I don't think the PlayStation version even had. But it's very impressive, and it's a really good port of Street Fighter Alpha 2. As I say, really technically amazing, and a very good port at that. The last one, kind of cheating here, Star Fox 2. So never actually properly released. There have been a few beta versions released over time, and an almost finished version. There is a finished version of the game, which belongs to Dylan Cuthbert of we now have Q Games, who did work at Argonaut at the time, the creator of Star Fox, but he's never released that for legal reasons, of course. But there is a very near version that leaked out, and you can get reproductions of that, which is very cool. Really good Star Fox game. It should have been released, really. They stopped it from being released because the N64 was coming up very soon with, of course, its own Star Fox game. So they thought it was too similar, but they did rob a lot of things out of that game and put it into later Star Fox games, such as the Walker from Star Fox 2 is in the latest Star Fox game, Star Fox Zero, and all sorts of things like that. But again, it's a really good Star Fox game, very different, but worth checking out on emulation or if you get a repro cartridge. So thank you very much, Andrew, for your questions. Love it, good stuff. Check out his YouTube channel, as I said. Next up is from Twitter, from Thomas Garrett at Duo Reviews Tom, and he asks me, what's a game that reviewed badly that you like, and how about a game that reviewed well that you don't? Game that I liked that not a lot of people did was Pilot Wings Resort on the 3DS. I know it's not retro, but it's sort of one that springs to mind. I like Pilot Wings. I especially love the N64 game, and I'm kind of sad they don't make more Pilot Wings games, but I really liked the launch game for the 3DS. It was a nice, simple, kind of relaxing, kind of very light flight sim, and there's lots of kind of doing things in terms of like getting high scores and going in medals and things like that. Not the best version of Pilot Wings, but I really liked it, so I was quite sad to see a lot of other people didn't. So that's one game. A game that loads of people like that I hate, the Halo series. And that's probably some sort of blasphemy in certain corners of the gaming industry, but I've never liked the Halo games. I've never liked the level design. I've tried to like them. I've got the Master Chief Collection. I've been playing it with my wife, and she really loves Halo, but I just can't get on with it. I find it a little bit too sort of samey, a bit repetitive, a bit too much for my taste. I sort of like my first-person shooters to be a little bit more stealthy. I like kind of things like GoldenEye and Deus Ex, Human Revolution, that sort of thing. Like a bit more stealthy, a bit more thought involved, not just kind of mindlessly mowing through enemies. So thank you very much for that, for Thomas. Really great question. Next up is my good friend Richard Simpson, my former colleague at God is a Geek. He is at Reverton, he comes from Twitter. He asks me, are there any retro games you wish you owned an original of? I'm probably going to go back to Star Fox 2. I bought a reproduction cartridge of Star Fox 2 that worked in my SNES, but it broke off like 2 hours of taking it home and using it, so I had to take it back. I'm really gutted because I got that cartridge for a really good price, and it's a bit more expensive because people have to make it, they have to put the chips in and things like that. But I really do want to get myself a proper copy of that at some point because that was a really fantastic game. So that's one question. He also gives me another question. If you could combine any retro console with any controller, what would your ideal combo be? I'd probably say the Super Nintendo console. Of course, if you know me, I do love the Super Nintendo. I'd probably chuck a Sega Saturn pad on that, because the Sega Saturn 6-button pad is really good for most games, like most 2D games. It's got really good buttons, a really good D-pad, fantastic for fighting games as well. It's a good all-round pad in general, so I think marry the two together and I think you'd end up with a really good pad. I think it's got shoulder buttons as well, if I remember correctly as well. So yeah, I'd probably stick that on there. Thank you very much for your question, Rich, much appreciated. The next question comes from Alex Holmes from Twitter at Holmes Ninja. Midnight game / console launches, awesome or overhyped? I've done a few kind of midnight launches. They're kind of pointless now because you have the whole thing where retailers online will send you the games for release on the day or beforehand. But there's something to be said for going to a midnight launch at a proper shop. And just sort of having that sort of community there and kind of chatting to people while you're waiting in line, or it's quite fun. It's quite a very different experience. I remember getting the original Wii when it came out. I only just managed to get my pre-order in like a few nights beforehand, and I basically went out clubbing the night before it came out, so the night it came out, and I took a bus all the way from where I went out clubbing all the way to the game shop to pick up my console, and so I was very tired, and I managed to pick up my console, and I went straight back home, and I think I was playing it at like 1-2 o'clock in the morning, and I think I managed to get to sleep at about 8-9 o'clock. So I couldn't do that stuff now. I'm too old to do that, but it's a lot of fun. I just think it's been sort of superseded by online retailers, and you can actually get a game early by pre-ordering it online. Especially now you've got digital stuff as well, where you can actually pre-order a game digitally on your Xbox or your PlayStation and download it beforehand, and it unlocks at midnight. It seems a bit pointless to go to the events now. You don't need to. So thank you very much for your question there, Alex. Great stuff. So quite a ton of questions from John Anderson at Twisted Parker on Twitter. I hope that's how you pronounce it. It's got a PH there, not an F. His first one is: will Nintendo make another 2D Metroid game? Considering that the Nintendo NX is supposed to be some sort of hybrid handheld and home console, I think they're probably going to concentrate on 3D stuff from now on. That's if they even bother to release a Metroid game. It's not a series that does well for them around the world. It sort of does quite well in America, okay over here, not very well in Japan. So that's sort of a big reason why it's not. They didn't even bother celebrating the 30th anniversary of Metroid. I mean, so I think the chances of a 2D Metroid are going to be pretty slim. Although I would love to see one. Next question is: what is your opinion of video games of today? Do you prefer retro games or new games? I've sort of found myself in a rut when it comes to new games these days. Although I do review games at the moment, new stuff, I'm sort of still finding myself going back to the old games, just catching up on a few things, especially for doing some of the videos for Pug Hoof Gaming. It's not that I don't like new games, it's just this year there hasn't been too many games that have really made me think, oh, I really want to play it. So yeah, I think I've just been sort of sticking with the retro games for now, just because that's sort of catching up on a few things for my backlog while things are pretty quiet on the new game front. So thank you. So when will the NX be revealed is another question. So it's supposed to come out in March, April time, worldwide I think. So that doesn't give them too much longer to actually announce it and tell people it's coming. So I would be really surprised if they don't say something by late November, start December, because the Wii U's pretty much had all its games now. The latest Paper Mario RPG came out, so I think that's probably the last great game for the Wii U. So I think it's time for Nintendo to say that's the Wii U done. Here is something new, and Zelda of course is coming. I wouldn't also be surprised if they actually delayed it to the summer maybe, just because it's this close and we haven't seen anything from anybody or heard anything official about what this console is going to be like. It's going to be a very tight launch. So thank you very much, John, for that question. It's a really good one again. The last question from John: is VR the new thing, or is it just a fad? I remember VR in the early 90s when it had like the Lawnmower Man and things. VR was supposed to be the future of gaming and entertainment. And it wasn't, and that's mainly because the technology at the time was just too crap basically. Now the technology is there, more people are adopting VR, and I think there's sort of more reasons to kind of get involved with VR. Like there are actually developers making games with franchises. There's a Batman VR demo. There's Assassin's Creed's probably coming at some point. There's a Star Wars X-Wing demo that by EA and Criterion Games. I think they're putting their best foot forward. I mean, you have a VR system coming out for a console, the PlayStation 4, and from what I hear, it's very impressive. You've got Oculus, you've got HTC's Vive, you've got Microsoft's HoloLens as well, which is supposed to be really awesome. So I think VR's going to stay, but I don't think it's going to be the future of gaming. I think it's going to be this sort of side thing that you can sort of engage with, but I don't think it's going to replace the proper way to play, or the normal way to play games with a controller. So thank you very much for all of those questions. John, thank you very much for that. Last question is from my good friend Benny Williams at Rock and Roll Papa. He's one of my colleagues at the RGDS podcast. And he asks me, this is a long one here: you're trapped in a confined room with a grumpy old man that wants to teach adults that play video games a lesson because he thinks your hobby is a childish activity. You have your Game Boy with you and an ample supply of batteries. However, he's left you with 5 of the worst games on the system. You must play one of them for 12 hours. What is your choice for 5 worst games on the system, and which do you choose to play for those 12 hours? That's a really good question. I had to put some proper thought into this one. So my 5 worst games are going to be for the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, Worms, The Simpsons, Escape from Camp Deadly, Game Boy Gallery, Alleyway, and Mortal Kombat. All of those games are pretty terrible. Worms is a very basic game. The Simpsons from Escape from Camp Deadly is a very uninspired, side-scrolling sort of platform with its really awful mechanics. Game Boy Gallery is just really simplistic ports of Game & Watch games. It's not particularly interesting or exciting as much as I like Game & Watch stuff. Alleyway is just Breakout with Mario in, and I've never liked that game. Mortal Kombat is just an awful port and very pointless. Why would you play a version of Mortal Kombat with black and white without any proper fatalities? Seems a bit pointless, really. So that's those 5 games. The one I'd probably play the most, I guess what we're saying is the worst of those 5 games is probably Worms. As simple as that game is, I do like playing Worms. And I would probably settle for even a really crappy basic version of the original Worms game and play that over and over again, then play probably any of those other games for 12 hours. I think I'd probably settle on that. So yeah, that's my answer. Thank you very much, Benny. And that's all my questions, really. Thank you very much for watching this little video. We'll say it's going to be quite long, this one. Keep your questions coming. If you tweet me at Pug Hoof Gaming, if you use the hashtag PugQA, and ask me a question. You can also ask me your questions in the comments of this very video, and I'll add to the next list of my 3rd Q&A video coming in sometime in the next couple of months. And lots of busy stuff going on with the channel. We've been going weekly, as you probably noticed, and I think the reception of that has been very good. I've been sort of doing lots of good stuff. In terms of other things, the time I'm recording this on a Tuesday, the Tuesday before the Thursday this goes out, I'm actually going to an award ceremony tonight. I've actually been, I've been nominated for an award. The team that I work with at God is a Geek, doing videos at godisgeek.com, and we've been nominated for a Best Video Team award at the Games Media Awards, which is like the most sort of like it's the British sort of awards for games writing and video stuff. So to be nominated in that is such an incredibly proud moment for me and the rest of the team. We're not going to win because it's like you've got people like the guys at Eurogamer, Video Gamer, IGN, Games Radar, really sort of professional sites, and there's this kind of us being this little kind of small amateur site of part-timers that are in there. But the fact we're in there and been nominated is amazing, and I'm really looking forward to kind of going to that tonight. By the time this comes out, you'll know whether we won or lost. We probably lost, but until then, wish me luck for the past if you've been watching this. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to Pug Hoof Gaming if you have not done so already. And until next week, happy gaming.